Episode 33 of the Stomp the Bus show. I'm your host, Mark Harris. And Colton, ASU didn't do anything stupid, and they kept Bobby Hurley. Re-signed to a
Great move.
2-year extension, so he'll be here for 3 more years, barring anything bad happening. I like the move. What were your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I think during our last show, we kind of talked about this being the best option for ASU in terms of like where they should go with Hurley from here. I think you maybe even threw out the 2-year timeline, which is obviously they felt similar, and they gave them that, or they gave them that deal. I like the move. I was thinking about it a little bit too, and it's like when we were discussing this last week, the point of like who can you get that is better than Bobby Hurley? Like
Right now,
immediately,
nobody.
right?
Yeah.
Like who is an upgrade over Bobby Hurley right now for ASU? I don't think that person exists. I think with Bobby Hurley, he's one of the more recognizable names in college basketball in general, right? With everything
Yeah.
that he's done in college basketball, you have that guy as the face of ASU. I mean, he's never gonna be like a world-renowned basketball strategist. I don't think going to be a guy that goes out and reinvents the offensive wheel, so to speak, or just blows anybody away with some game plan that he's come up with. But I think what Bobby Hurley does extremely well is he galvanizes his teams, he motivates his players, and he gets absolutely everything that he can out of the guys that play for him. And I think that's extremely important. I also think the fact that he's able to field a team year after year in this situation. I know we've talked about Desert Financial quite a bit. We're going to talk about it again today, and sort of the situation surrounding, facilities and all of the other things that you can use to recruit players. The fact that he's still able to field a competitive team year after year with some of the guys that he has on these rosters, is a testament to what he's able to get out of these players. So I think it's a great move. I don't think you're going to go out and find anybody better than Bobby Hurley. I don't know what the hope is in terms of long-term outlook. I don't think ASU is ever going to become some West Coast basketball superpower or anything
Right.
like that. So like, what are you going to try to do as a program? Are you going to try to be perennially competitive in this conference that they may or may not still be in at some point?
Right.
But I think ASU has proven that they have been a middle to above average team in the Pac-12 more often than not. And that's a testament to what Hurley has done. So I like the move. I don't think you're going to find anybody better, and we'll see where he goes from here.
Yeah. And the thing, you mentioned it, it's like, to me, it's not so much like there is a chance that sure, if you didn't retain him, that maybe people think, oh, like you could get someone better. But the thing with me is with getting rid of Bobby is that if you didn't bring him back, we've said this before, like it's so much more likely that you just get someone who's way worse, and then you just totally take steps back, and all the momentum from this past year is gone. Like we don't know who's all coming back. We know that Enoch Boyachi entered the transfer portal, but I feel like I don't know how much that was like. Oh, did he leave because of Bobby? It's like he wasn't playing, So anyway, but we don't know who's all coming back. We know Desmond Cambridge isn't coming back. Luther Muhammad, I believe, is officially out. I think some other guys, it's like in between, because it's just all so confusing with the COVID rules and stuff. But like, even if it's just like Jemiah Neal, Austin Nunez, Duke Brennan, DJ Horn, I think he's listed. He's a junior, so I think he could come back. Obviously, you'd have to add on to that
Frankie
with
Collins is a grad transfer too.
yeah. You'd have to add a few transfers, and
Yeah.
you have 2 decent players coming in from high school too, but who knows how much they'll be able to contribute. But it's just to me, like I just don't understand why they waited so long even to resign Bobby. Um, that's kind of the thing that is annoying to me, that it was only announced on Tuesday.
Like it
That
kind of seemed contingent upon what he did in this tournament, right?
oh, totally, it totally
Yeah.
like no, like the Desmond Cambridge shot in Tucson, let's be real, like that basically kept Bobby around. So if you're a Bobby hater out there, maybe you don't want that shot to go in. But um
That's a
that's
great
what
point.
bothers me is that's what bothers me. It's just like, why are we waiting this long? Like why are we waiting this long to re-sign him when he's basically the best option you can get other than just totally being lucky, you know?
Right. I
Um,
think every year you're going to see an extremely high floor with a
right.
Bobby Hurley coach team. You're never going to see a Bobby Hurley coach team have like a Cal level season. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Which
Right.
that's really really low. But I mean they're always kind of going to be in that like I don't know 9-4 range in the conference. Maybe that's a little too big too. Maybe like 8-4 range in the conference, somewhere in there.
Right. Maybe
A
three on a
little,
good year or
yeah,
a bad year for the
three if
league.
they really put it together in conference play, whatever it is. But I mean that floor with all of the factors that we've discussed, I think that's a very respectable floor. And you're right. I mean, everybody wants to focus on that shot in the U of A game, and rightfully so. Like that shot was incredible. It's one of the biggest shots probably in ASU basketball history, right? And I mean, but the fact that that was a 3-point game is just a test, or a 2-point game rather, was just a testament to everything. Or was it a 2 or a 1-point game at that
It was a
point?
2 point game.
Either way,
Yeah.
a testament to the fact that they were in that game for the entire game in Tucson. I think they went down by 7 at one point. They gave that Tucson team everything they could handle, right? And it's like, obviously you win the game, that's incredible, but even if you don't, like, what are you supposed to do in that situation? That's one of the best teams in the country, and people don't go into McHale and win, right?
Right.
So I mean, there's a lot of nuance to it. I think there's a lot of like splitting hairs, but I mean, in the end, all that matters is results, right? And if he doesn't get that result, who knows where we're at? But Bobby Hurley, I think, is always going to be one of those guys that it's like you're living on the edge a little bit. It's always going to be one bounce goes our way or one bounce doesn't, and we're talking about a team that's not in the tournament, sort of, or
Well, yeah.
bounced in the
Yeah.
first round. Like it's never going to be definitively one way or the other, I don't think, with him.
Totally. And yeah, like I'm not sitting here and saying like Bobby Hurley is this incredible coach, because like if you're an ASU fan, like obviously there's like annoying flaws of like how the ASU basketball team plays. And we'll talk about it. It didn't really show up in the tournament. I think TCU just a good team. We had a bad, well, we did have like a few bad possessions, but like again, that's just kind of part of the mix.
You
So
know, speaking to that game real quick, I like, I thought ASU kind of bucked their classic meltdown past to an extent. And I know
I
it
kind of
came
agree with you, honestly. Yeah.
I think I know it kind of came back in the end, and it was like they lose by 2, whatever. TCU is a great team. You're in the round of 64, right? You're down by 11 to start the game. It was
Yeah.
16-5 at one point. And they come all the way back to take like what was it, a 10-point lead at one point. And obviously you squander that 10-point lead, but that was a game of just haymakers the whole way.
Yeah, totally.
And I mean, that DJ Horn shot, I literally, when he took that shot, I was like, there's zero chance this is going in. And the fact that that shot went in, that was when that whole like classic ASU meltdown mantra kind of like melted away for me a little bit. Like, wow, they fought and they just tied this game. That's incredible. I never thought they would be able to do this.
Right.
So,
well, there was some great. I mean, the Frankie dunk, the Devin Cambridge dunk.
oh yeah, the Frankie dunk
incredible.
was insane.
I mean, my
if they
word.
would have won that game, that would have been on like every
Oh,
CBS
I know.
promo.
It's annoying how that goes down in like social media or whatever, but it is what it
Yeah.
is. Gaffney had a great block shot too. Like, I mean, that was like, it's weird. Like, that was a fun game, you know?
Yeah. It was one where it's like ASU lost an absolute slugfest, and it's like
Right.
they were in it until the very end. It's not the result that you want, but they didn't show up
To a better team too.
Right. They didn't show up and look like they didn't belong
Right.
on the same court as a team from probably the best conference in college basketball this year.
Yeah. Well, and yeah, that's a good point. And the thing is, like, let's compare it to the last time ASU lost in the tournament back in 2019 to Buffalo. It was just, you got killed. And so, like, for ASU, I mean, we weren't going to beat Gonzaga, let's be real. So, like, if we'd won, like, obviously, like, I didn't want to lose that game, of course, but like, I feel fine about the program, like, after that game. You know what I'm saying? Like, it was a good showing. That's a good way to put it. And look at some of the first round games, like if you get blown out in the first round, and it's if you're not like a 16 seed or something, or like really low, it still puts a damper on the season, you know? Like, it's like, wow, like we didn't even belong here, or why are like U of A fans, what, you know, when they lost hilariously, U of A fans, a lot of them were like, it doesn't even look like there's effort, you know. And like, you can say a lot of things about Bobby Hurley teams, but effort is not one of them. Like, they play with effort. Sometimes it's like too much effort, and it leads to like miss passing lanes or whatever. But like,
or like missed dunks off the back iron, that sort
of
stuff.
Exactly. But you'd rather that than the other way around.
No, I completely agree. Like, you never want to like take the loss, right? Like, you always want to come out on the positive side of this, but you're not always going to. That's just the nature of these games. And I think if this is sort of a state of the union, if that TCU game and this season as a whole are sort of like a state of the union for ASU basketball, I think they're in a pretty good space. Like, we talked about in a couple episodes ago, kind of like putting it all in perspective, what Bobby Hurley was able to do this season in terms of constructing this roster, making it gel. There was a couple of rough spots, but not losing this team, keeping them together. And then that little run they went on at the end to even get into the tournament, absolutely dismantling Nevada, and then keeping it close against a team from the Big 12. Like, all in all, if you look at this season through a very wide lens, I've already said I think it's Bobby Hurley's best coaching job of his ASU tenure. But I also think you've won a tournament game. You were in the field of 64. You've proven that you can win with a ton of transfer guys, right? That maybe this is an appealing transfer portal location now for guys who are just coming in for 1 year. Guys who don't need to be. Yeah, guys who maybe don't need to be wooed by like groundbreaking facilities and all of this stuff, because I mean, obviously that's not ever going to happen with ASU, right? Like, but I do think right now Bobby Hurley is suited to do this job, and he proved it by the manner in which he did it this year and the way that he accomplished what he did this year with the guys that he had.
Right. Well, and I mean, the Nevada win, which we haven't even mentioned, like, that was like basketball nirvana, honestly.
It was over. It was over like 3 minutes in.
Yeah, we were watching that together, and it's like, it was funny in the second half. Anytime like the lead like went back down to 20, you're like, yeah, like, what's gonna happen now? It's like, you just wanted the game to be over, and then eventually it's like, oh, this game is over. It's like, it was incredible. Like, everyone was hitting threes. I mean, that is one thing I do like about the Bobby Hurley experience, is sometimes you get that game and it's like, it's just incredible. But
Yeah.
obviously that's can't be duplicated every night. But yeah, and the other thing with Bobby is like you just look, I mean, 420 win seasons in 8 years. Like I just don't know why like there's some ASU fans that are just like so vehemently opposed to Bobby coming back. And there's not like it's a minority of fans. It's not most of them, but some are like, oh, he's not a good coach, this and that. It's like I I just like, man, like you like
I
just look
mean,
on Wikipedia of ASU basketball history. Like go look at record by year. I mean, and like Herb, like people look at Herb Sendek's had some 20-win seasons too, but a lot of those years they didn't schedule well in the non-con, and so they went to the NIT instead.
right.
But
And it's, I mean,
Bobby scheduled well in the non-con. I
yeah,
mean, it usually in the past in
except for that San
2018.
Francisco game. That one I won't give him a
Well, that
pass
was
for.
yeah.
But
Schedule's difficult in the non-con is a good way to put it.
yeah,
That was too
let's
difficult.
never schedule a game on December 23rd in the Bay Area again.
Yeah, no, that was a forgettable moment of the season. But
There you go.
in terms of like the overall process, I mean, shit, like in 2018 and 2019, our early season scheduling, playing Kansas, Xavier, whatever, that's what got us into the tournament. Like we
Right.
faded down the stretch in Pac-12 play, and that is a fair criticism of Bobby, is that his teams fade a little bit in Pac-12 play. Like it's obvious. Some of that's just being in league play, but some of it's not all just that. Anyway,
No,
and
definitely.
this year, like we scheduled well too. We just didn't even get Michigan just wasn't as good as people thought they were going to be.
That looked like a great win when it happened.
Yeah, and it
Yeah.
turned out to just be a good win. But you beat Creighton, so that was big.
Yeah.
And I might be forgetting. Well, you beat VCU, that tournament
Mhm.
team, and of course the other team in that Brooklyn thing was Pitt, and you don't even play them, and they make the tournament. But it is what it is, and you also lose to Texas Southern. So I can't. But I will say this, because remember the start of last year's season when you lose to UC Irvine on the like the full
Oh,
court
yeah.
buzzer beater.
Yeah.
That's just like ASU basketball has had a few losses like that to open the season, like early in the season before. And I guess we had one of those this year with Texas Southern, but it was really just one. That's the thing. It wasn't three, you know.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
and
I
that's
think
that.
depending. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say like that's why I'm excited about some of the returning guys coming back. I mean, we didn't even really get to see Austin Nunez for a good chunk of because he's with the concussion to end the season. Jemiah Neal, breakout performance. We'll see how much of that can continue, but Duke Brennan, solid freshman year. Probably did a lot more than people anticipated he would do. Uh,
Yeah.
who else is coming? Oh, Frankie. Frankie obviously, look, had a rough final stretch in the last game. No one's gonna deny that. But he was a good player for us for most of the season, and even in the TCU game, he hit a lot of tough layups early
Yeah.
on in that game that kind of kept us from kept TCU from like really blowing us out early and kind of helped us claw back into that game. So I think people should remember that in the Frankie discourse of the final game. But he's been a good ad and likes playing with Hurley. The other thing, and that's one more thing about Hurley, is like guards clearly like playing with him because he gives them freedom, and because like they'll know that they're learning from someone who is like played in the NBA and was a great college guard, and so it's like that's one thing that's like at least we can like kind of count on that, in the future. And Austin Nunez, I'm excited to see what he does next year.
Definitely. I thought, oh, and real quick too, I just want to correct. I think I said Frankie Collins was a grad transfer. That was extremely wrong.
Oh yeah, no.
I thought he was one of those guys that transferred in. He's a sophomore. So maybe Bobby's able to get him to come back. Austin Nunez, talking about that Michigan game, I thought he was kind of the difference in that game, and he was the reason they put it just completely out of reach. I'm bummed they didn't get him back at any point. But yeah, just kind of looking through this roster, Duke Brennan, obviously, he's a freshman. And then there was one other guy, like Frankie Collins, Jemiah Neal, Austin Nunez, maybe DJ Horn. That's not a bad core, That's a core you can kind of build around if you're bringing other guys in to kind of alleviate some of the losses. But again, regardless of what happens, I think they're in a good spot. And I think Bobby's proven that he can field a competitive roster in an era where turnover is going to be something that hits everybody, right? With this transfer portal stuff. And I think all of the criticisms of Bobby as coach are solely dependent on what your definition of a coach is, right? Like, I think these criticisms of like, he's a terrible coach are so subjective, because what is your definition of a good coach? Is it somebody who gets everything that he can out of his players and elevates them in positions where it's like you're down 11 to TCU? What are you going to do? Like somebody like that? Or is it somebody who's able to draw up groundbreaking schemes and just like X's and O, play chess
And
with the
he's
other
not like,
team?
it's not like Bobby doesn't do any of that either. Like, he has
But I'm
called some good
saying
out of
he's
timeout
never going to
plays.
be like one of the greatest basketball minds in the game.
Well,
Like, in terms of his ability to strategize as a coach. But my point is, like, he's not the greatest coach you're ever going to find in that regard. But I think in the other regard that I mentioned, he's probably like, who else gets this much out of their players, right? Like, he's a pretty good coach in that respect. So I think it's solely dependent upon like how you're going to view this, and I think he's the right coach for this team.
Yeah, and he has to put up with some shit at ASU. Let's be real. Like, the administration, and we're about to get into this, clearly doesn't really care about basketball, as Michael Crow basically said last week. He gave an interview with the state press about really a whole slew of issues, part of Pac-12 media rights, and the Coyotes arena vote, whether he's involved with it. This done by Piper Hansen and Alex Wakefield, did a good job. And we're going to start at the end, where he basically says the arena is, quote, functional. Functional. And so if you're Bobby Hurley, you have to deal with a ancient arena that it's not even like, oh, the Blue Bloods, they don't have an arena like that. It's like all these other schools have better arenas that have been renovated on the inside too, That's the other thing. Like, this arena, it has not been renovated on the inside. It's like there's been hardly any updates to it. And, you hear stories from like more elderly people who like struggle with like handrails going up the stairs. There's no suites. Not that, maybe some people would buy suites. I don't know. Well, people buy suites at the hockey game,
Mm-hmm.
So it's just an old arena. I mean, apparently I was listening to a podcast and someone was saying that Bill Frieder, the old ASU coach from the 90s, was complaining about it being old then, And so here we are in 2023, and school president says it's a functional arena. And I'm going to read an excerpt of this. In February 2022, ASU athletic director Ray Anderson told Arizona Sports' Billy Murata that Desert Financial was, quote, in dire need of improvements, and that he, quote, anticipates ASU will be pivoting to that very quickly. Crow says, I don't know what you meant by, quote, dire. You've been there. It's completely functional. It's actually a fine facility and just needs some updates. Okay, well,
that's literally
good,
what Ray Anderson said. Like, I don't understand that. Like,
And
Ray
then,
Anderson did just say that. So
yeah, last year, one of the most important updates to DFA's air handling system, which Crow says would cost about $25 million. He also said seating may need updating with the possible addition of handrails and general improvements made to the locker rooms. There haven't been any serious injuries. There haven't been any serious injuries seriously from that, Crow said. Quote, that facility is completely functional. It does not determine if we win basketball games at all.
yeah, like the facility isn't going to hit a three for you, but it's going to bring the people in who will hit the threes for you. Like, that doesn't make any sense.
Oh my gosh.
That makes no sense. It does not determine if we win basketball games at all. I mean, it kind of does. Like,
It totally does.
like,
It does indirectly. It doesn't, like, yes, the court doesn't matter on game day in terms of the ball going in the hoop or not, but the other 330 days a year, that's about now probably 340 is a better estimation, maybe 345. Anyway, all the games where there aren't home game, all the days where there aren't home games, you have to recruit and bring recruits into the arena in the locker rooms that are very old as well, and apparently a lot, like, or you don't bring them there. You just avoid the arena completely and just show them the Weather Up Center. So, I mean,
wait,
I just
I'm reading the last part. Did you read the last part of this?
oh my, describing ASU as like a unicorn, like
Where he asked Alexa, what is a unicorn? No, Alexa, cancel. Sorry, mine just lit up. But he says, we're so unusual. We're the 7-footer who can dribble and shoot, right? So that's the unicorn. That's ASU. We're the 7-footer who can dribble and shoot in a direly functional arena. And I think that was supposed to be like a little dig at what Ray Anderson said. But
of course,
you will literally never get a 7-footer who can dribble and shoot in the unicorn sense to play in that stadium or that arena. So I don't really know what that point was trying to prove, but
hey, we almost got Thon Maker. Remember that, Colton?
I do remember the Thon Maker sweepstakes. He was only
Oh,
27 at that point.
yeah. It's so, maybe he's just trying to, like, there's speculation that he just wants to get like, hope that the Coyotes arena gets built, and I think there's a vote coming up for that. And then he can just move ASU basketball there, which I think that's a bad idea for ASU basketball, because you're going to be playing in like a 16,000 seat arena.
Yeah.
That's just going to look so bad unless they like tarp off the whole upper section or something. And it's also just further away from campus because it's down like on like Priest Road or whatever. So
yeah, it's kind of closer to the airport, right? It's like,
yeah, exactly. So I get it for the Coyotes, but like for ASU basketball, it's like you could just update the arena you already have.
yeah.
You don't even need to tear it down. You just need to like make some updates to it. It's not,
And they literally
like,
just did that with the football stadium right next door.
yeah. It's frustrating. It's frustrating that it's like, oh, it's not even a big deal. Like, it's like it is a big deal because it just shows you like his view into sports, right? Hey, it's functional. We have a
Yeah.
basketball team. What are you complaining about? They play basketball. You can sit down and watch them. It's like, yeah, it's functional. Congrats, like it's functional, and like that's why if you're an ASU fan who's critical of them keeping Hurley, it's like, no, this is why Hurley needs to stay, is so the other person who may not be able to handle all this kind of external non-support as well, they might just do much worse and not have 20-win seasons every other year, basically, including the pandemic.
That's an excellent point. It's like so many people are focused on like what happens on the court, but I think Bobby Hurley, you're absolutely right, has been able to sort of weather the external storm,
Right.
right? As you put it, like he's not going to a school where the president necessarily like I don't want to say he doesn't care about athletics, but it's not like
Well, I mean, look, like when you say
it's
things like
not.
that, people think you don't care about athletics.
I mean, his words aren't lending to any sort of belief or any sort of like he's not instilling any belief that this is something he values very highly when he says things like that. Let's just put it that way.
Well,
Right?
it's like he says, quote, there haven't been any serious injuries just seriously from that. It's like that's the bar it's like the bar he's judging it
Right.
on is just so low. It's like, hey, nobody died there. Like, what are you complaining about?
Right. Like I don't know. Applying to a text real quick. Like that scenario in my mind when he says there hasn't been any serious injuries seriously from that. It's like, so what is the criteria for that? Somebody who
Right.
falls because there's no rail, but they just like drank a beer before, so he's like attributing that to overconsumption or something like that.
Right.
Right? Like I don't understand what the criteria is for somebody who hasn't been seriously injured seriously from that. Like seriously twice just makes it seem like he's there have been people, but based on this very, very limited criteria, nobody fits that.
It's like, yeah, you might bruise your knee. We can't.
Right. Like, what's a serious injury? Is like death a serious injury to you?
Yeah.
People have broken legs, but nobody's died. So we're fine.
I mean, broken leg, that's a serious injury. But like, it's just, I don't know. Maybe he's just kicking this can down the road until he knows what's going to happen with the arena. But it's just, I don't know. When it comes to athletics with him, he just doesn't know what he's doing. Like, and he thinks he really knows what he's doing. That's the other thing that's troubling. Because this guy supported Larry Scott till the bitter end. The bitter end. And now we're not 100% sure the Pac-12 is even going to be a thing in 2 years. So that's just the thing that just, I don't know. Like, this is going to sound a little morbid, but Michael Crow is 67 years old. So I don't, who knows how much longer. Obviously, he's not going to die. He's in good shape, but just retire or something. I don't know.
I don't know where you were going with that, Mark.
No, it's just like, I just feel like as an ASU fan, like, I feel like sometimes you almost have to win in spite of the president. Like, just
Yeah.
maybe not so much in football, I guess, because it's like, although football maybe in other ways, like I don't know the whole scope of everything, but
The football facilities are like incredible now, but
yeah, no, the football, I just mean in more in terms of like how the program is, like why, like, we still have the investigation, like we still had Herm Edwards be the coach for a while, and I mean, all this stuff that, like, this is all things that happened under Michael Crow's watch by basically letting Ray Anderson pick his old friend to be the head coach. And
it's almost like out of sight, out of mind for him a little bit.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's like Michael Crow does not care about like winning big in college sports, which is like, and I'll say this, which is fine. He's a university president. Like, I get it, but it's also a part of me is like, dude, like, you will make more money as a school, more money, like more people showing up, being in the downtown Tempe area, spending money at Mill, spending money parking, Buffalo Wild, whatever it may be. Like, it just attracts more people to your school in general. Your school is just out there more often. Like, he should talk to whoever the University of Alabama president is and ask him, but hey, have had admissions requests gone up? That's applications. That's the word I'm looking for. Have applications gone up in the last 15 years? Oh, you know what, Michael? They actually have quite a bit. Wonder why. So yeah, that's just my thoughts on it. It's just more of the same, but it's so just disheartening to just everyone knows the arena's terrible, and you just look and it's functional. It's like that's how I treat my Jeep. My 2010 Jeep that has like scratches on the side and like a broke it's like, come on, man. Like we aren't at Fairleigh Dickinson or anything. Like, you run the largest or the second largest university in the country. So it's not like, and every other building nearby is nice too. That's the other thing. So okay.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah. Well, Mark, I am gonna have to do something kind of unprecedented here. I am gonna have to do the classic mid-show exit, unfortunately, just because of how long we've gone. I
You gotta
know we still
bounce.
have a couple topics here. I'll let you take the media rights deal. I'll give you my thoughts on Colin Simmons. Um, a hardworking and fun ASU practice. If they're all hardworking and fun, I think we'll be in good shape. And
There you go.
I will leave you on that, my friend. I'm just gonna mute and then shut off the video so it doesn't mess with the feed at all.
All right. Good
All
night,
right, I'll
Colton.
see you, man. Go
See
ahead
ya.
and take the next few topics. See you, fans, all 5 of you.
That's right. All right. Well, yeah, Colton had to bounce. So anyway, yeah, you know, um, I'm sure if you're listening to this podcast, you have similar thoughts about Michael Crow. But yeah, and the other thing he talks about in that article done by the state press is he basically shuts down any rumors of ASU going to the Big 12. Um, excuse me. He says, we're close to knowing what it's going to be. I think we're going to be close to a deal. He ends it with, we have fabulous sports teams and remaining teams. We're going to get a good offer. We're in the final stages of that process. He also says, quote, there have been no discussions with the Big 12 conference on moving. I mean, there have been discussions with everyone everywhere on all things related to where our conference is going and to where stuff's going to end up and what's happening. We are committed to the Pac-12. So basically saying, yeah, like, sure, we talk with people, but it's not calling up, Big 12 Commissioner Brett Yormark right away and saying, hey, uh, you know, we're just send us the invite and we're ready to go. Clearly, that's not how Michael Crow thinks, and doesn't really surprise me based on the fact I just don't see Michael Crow just wanting to torch the Pac-12 and leave. He seems like someone who wants to stay, honestly, till the end. I mean, I just mentioned his support of Larry Scott. Clearly, he thinks a lot like these other Pac-12 presidents, and because of that, to be fair to Michael Crow on the academic side, ASU has risen up academically, um, and you know he wants to be a part of being with those other schools, like Cal, Stanford, Washington, if they stay in the conference. And clearly, he likes the Pac-12. I know people think that's maybe me editorializing a little bit, but just as an ASU fan who's followed this program in the athletic department, I just I feel like ASU will go to the Big 12 at the like if they absolutely 100% have to. Um, I just Michael Crow does not seem like the guy who's going to be spearheading that. So interesting stuff there, and who knows? Maybe ASU basketball will just play in the Coyotes arena in 3 years. But I did want to talk about some other things that have been popping up. Um, U of A's president also had some interesting words, along with Utah's president and Utah's AD, Mark Harlan. They basically said they're committed to the Pac-12. Robert Robbins went a little bit further. He told The Athletic last week Basically that like the Pac-12 media deal, we think it's going to be like the bronze medal of all three, of all five of the conferences. So implying that it'll be better. It'll be a better media deal than the Big 12 and the ACC. So, there's a lot of people reading into that. I think if all these presidents are making comments, I feel like it has to be a lot closer behind the scenes. I know we've been talking about this. We've been talking about this for months now. But when you have a president just coming out and saying, we think we're going to have the third best deal of all the conferences, he's not just going to come out and say that without any sort of inkling behind it, any sort of, he's a freaking president. He's the president of Arizona. He has insider knowledge, So, and it's interesting to me because Arizona, they've been very much rumored to be interested in the Big 12, much more than ASU. That's for sure. And there's a big contingent of their fan base who wants to move to the Big 12 because, if we're being honest, the real reason is just because it's a better basketball conference. That's the gist of it, because U of A doesn't care about football enough to just want to move to a conference for the football product. It's about basketball, and I don't blame them from that perspective. From a lot of other perspectives, I don't think it really makes sense for them, but seems like their president agrees. So we'll see how it goes. It seems like it's starting to wrap up a little bit, but who knows? Who knows what to believe? Who knows who's what journalists, who they're getting their information from. It's very complicated. It's a complicated process. And I'm sure we'll find out more about it. Obviously we'll eventually learn, but it'll be interesting if there's ever like a behind the scenes, like how this actually all went down type of story about the Pac-12 media rights deal, because to me, it's very interesting just with the stakes involved, is if it's not good enough, obviously do Washington, Oregon leave somehow? Like, does the Big Ten enter this again? Or like maybe they sign a deal, but it's like with Apple. And so how does it work transitioning to streaming for the majority of your content? It's just very interesting. It's just the conference clearly at a crossroads. It's, to some, it seems like it's very dire, but to a lot of people, it seems like, based on what I'm just reading from reporters, it seems like there's a lot of people saying that it'll probably stick together. And so, as ASU fans, we can talk about what we actually think should be like where you personally want them to go. But to me, it just feels like the Pac-12 is going to stay together. Not as strong as before, and it'll cruise forward into the future of college football and then probably blow up in 2030. So that's where I'm at. I did want to get into some spring football talk. Obviously, Colton and I are not at spring practice, so I don't have any like super detailed analysis, but the one thing I've kind of gleaned on is it doesn't seem like there's like some huge leader in the quarterback race. It seems like the reps are getting mixed up. Makes sense. New offense. But I'm just kind of, as a fan, I'm just kind of getting ahead of it. Like, I don't really care. I find myself not really caring who becomes the starter. And what I mean by that is there's a lot of fans who just want Jaden Rashada to be the starter, which understandable. There's a lot of fans out there. Drew Pine, hey, started Notre Dame, was on a winning team, wasn't terrible. He was a former 4-star too, so it's not like he's, Mr. Walk-On. Speaking of walk-ons, you have Trenton Bourguet, who had some really good games last year. He, I think sometimes people mischaracterize how his season went last year because he played some very good games. Had kind of two bad ones, I'd say, Wazoo and Oregon State, but he wasn't on a very good team, to be fair. But That's part of it too. But so it'll be interesting to see who emerges as the starter, but there might not even be an answer until it just doesn't seem like they're going to be naming one at the end of spring. Maybe they will. That would definitely be interesting, but maybe they'll kind of let people know, because since there's so many guys on the roster, and especially the lower levels of the roster, such as like a Finn Collins already transferred, so he's gone. But I guess like a Dalen McLemore, just some of maybe a Bennett Meredith, who knows. That's total speculation too. They could be killing it in camp. But I did see some video of Xavier Guillory. Apparently, that's looking like a huge under the radar gem, really by Charlie Ragle, his former head coach, and Kenny Dillingham by extension. I like it, man. I think in receivers, I feel like there's so much less of a like learning curve from level to level. I think you've seen a lot of guys from lower levels kind of step up against better competition and move up and just kind of be like a seamless fit. So obviously it won't be every time, but I think, good sign that he's playing well. And then Colton mentioned it as he left. I couldn't not mention that one of the best recruits in the country stopped by ASU football practice earlier this week. That would be 5-star defensive end Colin Simmons. And he had a very good trip. He gave some great quotes, posted some things on Twitter about just how fun it was. And like he gave the eyeball emoji, took like a picture with the fork. And why do I bring this up? Why is it a big deal that granted a very high profile recruit, but a recruit visited ASU football practice? And to me, it's the fact that this guy is like such a high level and he's like legitimately considering us. Now, do I think that he'll go to ASU? No, I don't. I would love to be surprised about that. That would be great to get, literally a 5-star defensive end out of Texas. That would shift so many things about the future of this program, getting a guy like that, because then other players would follow. But I like it because like we are in the mix. We are identifying these players and we're not afraid to go after these players. It may not work, but you have to be in the mix. You have to be in the mix with these guys to even have a chance at getting them. So bring them in early. Look, Tempe's beautiful. That can't not have an impact. I mean, obviously, it's not going to be like, I guess I'll sign there. But hey, there's a chance at least, although a very unlikely one, if we're being honest. So ASU did get another recruit, a commitment in football. Wide receiver Zechariah Sample out of Texas. Good to get started, and it's good to not be, it's good that it just feels like we're on a normal recruiting pattern. You have some guys signed already. You're having guys at practice. You're not in the triple digits when you're scoring on 24/7. You're in the mix. And so that's what I love about Dillingham and the staff. Obviously, tons of energy at practice. That's just what he's going to be. He's only a few years older than Colton and I, so I can't really blame him. And yeah, and his assistants, clearly some of these assistants are really paying off already. Samples and Carrington. I mean, look, the 2 commits we have are from Texas. Colin Simmons is from Texas. I think I want to say Samples' father is the head coach of Duncanville High School in Texas, where Colin Simmons goes. So that's a connection. But you have Ragle bringing in Xavier Guillory. Brian Ward last year, we saw the Wazoo defense up close, and it totally limited us. but it was good all year. It was a good unit, and that's kind of the other thing that's like it just feels like this. There's just so much good vibes right now with this staff. So, right now, kind of just wrapping it up, like it's weird. This is the episode, coming to you after ASU lost its tournament game, but I feel like with the fact that Hurley is returning, and just where we're at with the Dillingham era so far, at least from like a coaching perspective, I feel good about the ASU's two biggest sports. I feel good about where we're at right now. We'll see what happens during the football season. Dillingham, we could go 3-9 again, and then that changes things. But just with the way the momentum's kind of rolling, it looks good on that end. We'll see where that goes. And yeah, thanks for tuning in. Colton had to leave a bit early, but we will be back next week. Maybe who knows what's going to happen between now and then. Hopefully a Pac-12 media deal gets officialized. Is that even a word? I'm not even sure officialized is the word. I can't. I'm kind of tired today, but gets approved, maybe, if signed isn't the right word, but gets reported of a Pac-12 media deal. Anyway, that gets checked off. We'll see what happens with that. I think ASU fans should be paying attention to the basketball transfer portal. Good Lord, transfer portal. We saw Bobby use it last year. We saw it work. He can sell that again. Maybe we'll have some guys transfer out too. Obviously, Enoch put his name in. So that, and who knows what could happen at ASU. Thanks for listening / watching, and go Ducks.